Hey everybody, Dano here from Everyday's Turkey Day, and today I thought I'd give you my review on Action Comics number 1000, the 80th year celebration of Superman, as well as the first North American comic to ever hit 1000 issues. And now Superman, he's kind of a worldwide icon. Even people who don't read comics know his origin. They pretty much know what he stands for. They know his villains. They know Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and so he's pretty much one of the best well-known characters, so much to where, you know, he's kind of a cultural icon. So in this issue number 1000, it's an anthology with 10 different stories, with each one having a different writer and different artists, and with a couple of splash pages in there of just a drawing of Superman. So that's pretty nice. But each of these stories represents what this character means to that writer, except for the last one by Brian Michael Bendis, but his is more of a preview or a teaser of his upcoming Man of Steel miniseries, as he is taking over both the Action Comics and the Superman title, and he's going to start his run on the character. So real quick, I'm just going to be going over each story here. I'm not going to be going super in depth, as I don't want this to be too long of a video. However, I just kind of want to give you a little bit of a taste, even though this video is kind of coming out late in terms of everybody else's reviews of this issue 1000. But, you know, I just felt, whatever, man, I'll do it too. So anyways, the first story is From the City Who Has Everything, which of course is a take on the Alan Moore story From the Man Who Has Everything. And this is the city of Metropolis having a Superman Day in celebration of Superman. However, when this is going on, at first, Superman is dealing with the Khund invasion, and, you know, he destroys some warships and then goes down and meets Lois and his son John to change and, you know, to join the festivities. But, you know, during this whole time, he's kind of like, you know, there can't be only one or two ships, you know, there's more out there. So he's constantly looking for more, and he doesn't even want to be at this celebration. You know, he's kind of like, that's not why he does what he does. So he keeps like seeing things out of the corner of his eyes, like off in space, and he's like, oh, what was that? And he's like, oh, I guess it was nothing. So in this, a whole bunch of people are on stage, you know, speaking and giving stories about how Superman helped them. You know, there was a firefighter who went into a house, I think against his commands, to save a child, and, you know, was pretty much about to die. And then Superman flies in and saves him. Another one was a criminal who, you know, got busted by Superman multiple times, but each time he got busted, Superman pretty much told him, like, you know, hey, you can change your life. This is not what you have to do. You don't have to be a pawn for, you know, some criminal enterprise boss man. You know, you can live a good life. You can change yourself and get redemption. And he talked about how when he got out of jail the last time, Superman put in a good word for him so he could get a new job and, you know, get back on the straight and narrow. So it kind of shows like what Superman represents to the city. And then at the end, you find out that there was more Khund's invasion, well, more of the Khunds that were trying to invade Earth, but Martian Manhunter influenced Superman telepathically, so, you know, he kind of didn't notice it, and the whole Justice League kind of had his back and took care of the invasion so that Superman could enjoy this day in his celebration. So, you know, it's kind of a good opening, you know, celebration. And then after that, we move on to Never Ending Battle, where Superman gets pretty much trapped in a time loop by Vandal Savage, and it goes over Superman's history throughout the decades in a real cool and clever way, and each page is like a full splash page. And at the end, you know, he kind of realizes that, like, he always goes back to his family. That may not be the best way to explain the story if you haven't read it, but, you know, it's a really good tale, and you get to see, you know, how right when he first starts off, he wasn't really the character that he is today. He was kind of more of just a buff dude, an aggressive buff dude who like punched robbers in the face, and then you get to see him like how then during World War II and stuff like that, how he was kind of you know, used as a symbol of hope in America, I guess you could say. And it's a really good story, and it's probably one of my favorite ones. I probably didn't do it enough justice in trying to explain it, but if you pick it up, I think you'll probably like it too if you like Superman and his history. Next, we got An Enemy Within, which is basically a story that shows how humans inspire Superman, and that's really a quintessential part of his character, is that, he represents hope to people, but Superman is just as inspired by humans in what he perceives to, be the decency in humans, just as humans are inspired by him. So this is basically Maggie Sawyer negotiating a hostage situation at a high school, where the principal has taken hold of a student and is holding her at gunpoint, and pretty much the police officer or whatever talks the situation down and ends up saving the kid, even though the principal was being manipulated by Brainiac, and so Superman takes care of that. But yeah, it just pretty much represents how Superman believes in humanity, and that's really like an interesting part of his character. So the next one is The Car, which The Car, it's a take on, if you've ever seen Action Comics #1, The Car in that cover where Superman's kind of holding over his head and smashing it into something. This is that story, and so it talks about how, Superman after this meets up with the driver at a like a mechanic shop, car shop, whatever. And Superman, confronts this guy, and Superman's kind of like, I know about your childhood. You lost your dad in the war, but, you need to know that, you can be that person who wasn't there for you. And, it's up to you whether or not you, with your life, you want to junk it or you want to fix it, relating to the car. And then at the end, the villain, well, he's not a villain, but the guy, is then opening a fire hydrant for the kids. So, that was a little cool story. Next, we have The Fifth Season, which is Superman and Clark. They're at a planetarium. There we go. And they're kind of talking, and Lex is showing Superman his childhood or whatever. And at this, in this story, he doesn't know that Superman is Clark Kent. And basically, it really shows without going into it too much, it really shows their relationship. I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit because I'm taking way more time than I thought I was going to. So excuse me if I don't go in depth to it as much. So the next story is Of Tomorrow, and this is a really like heartwarming, well, not heartwarming tale because it's kind of sad. It might bring a little bit of tears to your eyes, but this is pretty much after the Earth is getting engulfed by the sun. Superman visits his parents' gravesite for one last time, and pretty much, tells him he loves him and says goodbye. It's written really well, and it's like kind of really emotional. Next, we got 5 Minutes, which is it's pretty much about, it's a fun story about Superman and how he balances being Superman and working for the Daily Planet. So basically his boss, is like, Clark, we need a story in 5 minutes. But as this is happening, other stuff is happening out in Metropolis. So he goes and saves all this stuff in Metropolis and then comes back, finishes the story right on time. And then his boss is like, yo, Clark. And Clark is just like, yeah, I just sent it. It's done. And then his boss is just like, nah, forget that. I put the papers on hold. You need to write about what Superman has just done. So, it's a little fun story. Next is Actionland, which is about Mr. Mxyzptlk. In pretty much a Superman-esque park, I guess, like Cedar Point or something like that. So after that, Faster Than a Speeding Bullet, where Superman is racing to save a lady from getting shot in the head, and the lady leans her weight up against the barrel of his gun, which catches the crook off guard, which gives Superman just an extra, I think they say like an attosecond, like the smallest amount of time possible. But, from her doing that, it's just the amount of time that Superman actually has to rush in and save her. So with all that being said, last but not least, which most people I think were interested in, is the story The Truth, which is Bendis's, short little story that's teasing on what he's going to be doing on his upcoming run. And basically, he introduces a new, it's kind of like a generic brute-looking alien. His name was Rogol Zaar, who was, kicking Superman's ass. And then Supergirl shows up and he blasts her. And then pretty much, he's retconning Superman's origin right off the bat, saying that this new character, Rogol Zaar, had something to do with the planet blowing up, and that he told Jor-El before he did it that he was going to do it. And to be honest, I mean, the art was cool because it was by Jim Lee. The story, it was meh. It wasn't terrible. The dialogue was kind of meh. But to be honest, man, I kind of don't like the fact that he's just retconning something right off the bat. You know, I mean, he might change it in his story, but just the fact that the first thing he's doing is retconning something so iconic, and it's just kind of some bullshit in my eyes. But I mean, we'll see. I'm not gonna totally demonize it or say he shouldn't be on the character, because who knows, maybe he'll do something great. But I mean, I'm not super excited for what he's gonna do. But overall, this book, issue number 1000, I think they did a great job in, sort of showing what the character represents to so many different people, and also celebrating the character, because in issue 1000, and it's the first North American comic to do so, like, that's a lot of pressure. There's many different ways that they could take it, but I think they really nailed it on the head to where, everybody had something that they could enjoy, and there was a lot of people who, either back in the past or recently had something to do with Superman's, mythos and his history and how people have enjoyed him. And they each kind of gave everybody a piece to really show what Superman means to them. So, I mean, I think they did a really great job, and I mean, it wasn't perfect, but for what it was definitely great. And so I'd probably have to give it, 4 out of 5. Definitely solid 4 out of 5. And I'd say go pick it up if you can, or go read it if you're a Superman fan. So thank you for listening to this. Have a great day. Peace.